Every single day I see companies spending, just millions of dollars slapping new jargon like paradigm shift onto the exact same
Oh,
products.
yeah, it's completely
It
exhausting.
really is. It
Yeah.
is this fake innovation trap. They're hoping you won't notice they have literally stopped having original ideas. So that is why today's deep dive is honestly so refreshing. We're looking at notes from David Abbott and the team at aCatalyst Consulting, and, well, this is basically a thinking workout for you.
Yeah, and the core of that workout, it really comes down to this brilliant reframe from Aaron B. Powell. He says, it is not what you know, it is how you think. Because, if your goal is disruptive innovation, relying purely on your own industry experience is actually a massive liability.
Right.
You generally have two paths forward. Path one is first principles, where you break a problem down to its absolute fundamental truths and just build a solution completely from scratch. Like the classic example everyone points to is Elon Musk building rockets by asking what the raw physics actually require.
I always find that rocket cliche a bit exhausted, honestly.
Yeah.
Think of it more like how a master chef creates a new recipe from first principles.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, they ignore the traditional cookbook entirely and instead ask, at a molecular level, what compounds make these specific flavors pair together? But okay, so that is just path one. Path two is entirely different, which is thinking by analogy.
Right, taking a structure from one domain and just dropping it right into another. Like George de Mistral, he goes for a walk, notices burrs stuck to his dog's fur, and, invents Velcro.
See, the Velcro story always bothers me, though,
Wait, really? Why?
because it makes innovation sound like a lucky accident on a dog walk. But that is missing the point entirely, isn't it? Mistral didn't just get lucky observing nature. He asked a structural question. Like, how does this mechanism actually work, and where else can I apply it?
Exactly. He extracted the architecture of the burr. And Nike did the exact same thing when they borrowed the suspension concept from Formula One racing cars to create the Nike Shox running shoe.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they asked, who solves the problem of impact and rebound best? And they looked completely outside of footwear.
Okay, so let's actually model this analogical thinking right now, live. The source material asks this wild question. What could a digital marketer learn by watching a tea picker work?
Okay.
So picture that scene in your head. What jumps out at you?
Um, Watching a tea picker, I guess the ruthlessness of the selection process is what really stands out. They only pick the top two leaves in a bud.
Right.
They leave the rest of the bush totally alone. It is incredibly precise harvesting.
Exactly. So applying that structurally to digital marketing, most marketers cast a massive net and get completely bogged down in vanity metrics. They try to harvest the whole bush.
Oh, yeah, they absolutely do.
But if you act like a tea picker, you prune the low engagement noise entirely. You build a campaign that only harvests the absolute highest yield leads. Precision over volume.
And to find those kinds of analogies, you have to leave your comfort zone and just look at things you don't initially understand. Look at Johannes Kepler 400 years ago. He invented astrophysics entirely through analogies.
Right.
Conventional wisdom back then said planets were pushed around by souls or sat on glass spheres. But Kepler noticed that larger bodies seemed to pull smaller ones and used that analogy to deduce that the moon influenced the tides on Earth.
And his lack of foundational knowledge was actually his advantage there. Nobody knew what gravity was yet.
Exactly.
He didn't rush past his lack of understanding. He rigorously documented his confusion, calling them his lucky hazards. He just sat in the mess.
Which leads me to ask you, listening right now, when did you last let yourself be genuinely confused by a business problem instead of immediately reaching for the nearest, safest solution?
That is such a crucial question. Kepler could sit in that confusion because he knew he was exploring the unknown. But today, business leaders panic because they misdiagnose their environment. They think they are playing a game with clear rules, like a kind world, like chess or golf.
Right, where patterns repeat. But they are actually operating in a wicked world.
A wicked world is chaotic, it's surprising, and the rules change constantly. Let's ground this in the Kenyan business landscape right now.
Yeah, let's do that.
A kind world might be standardized bookkeeping, but a wicked world, that is the climate-driven supply chain chaos affecting agriculture, or the massive fintech disruption happening right now in Nairobi. It is rapidly shifting consumer behaviors.
And applying kind world thinking, just doing what worked yesterday, to wicked world problems is a massive trap. That is not a skills gap, it is a thinking gap.
So the practical pivot here is forcing structured discomfort.
Yes, exactly.
So instead of your usual weekly meetings, you run an innovation sprint session. You bring in an external catalyst, like someone from a totally unrelated field,
Yeah.
to look at your problem and force the team to map out how to solve it, rather than what to do.
You engineer that cross-domain thinking because the ultimate goal is creating a product that renders your competition utterly redundant. Napa Pesa is the gold standard here.
Oh, for sure.
It didn't just iterate on traditional banking. It borrowed from telecommunications to solve a fundamental structural problem of money transfer.
So here is a final provocation for you to mull over. We have talked heavily about borrowing from other industries to fix your business. But what if the analogy works in reverse?
Oh, interesting.
What is the equivalent of M-Pesa waiting to be seen in your industry by someone willing to look from a completely different angle? What mechanism does your company use perfectly right now that could disrupt an entirely different industry if you just swap the packaging?
That is a brilliant way to look at it.
If that question has landed somewhere real for you, David Abbott, and the team at aCatalyst Consulting run innovation sprint sessions built around exactly this kind of thinking, you can start a different kind of conversation with them at www.acatalyst.co.kk. Stop pasting new jargon over old ideas. Go find the burrs in the dog fur.